Good morning, everybody. I'm Adam Jones with Firefly MSP, and I'm joined today by Robert Reiman from the Giving Grove. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hoping these forest fires, or I guess they're more like brush fires,
Yeah.
stay on the other side of the mountain. But it's last year, I think we got off lucky. This is the first time I feel like we've had to actually kind of pay attention. It's amazing how hard they work to solve these.
Yeah.
So, but how are things in Kansas City?
Oh, things are good. We've had, other than the pandemic that everybody in the world is having to deal with, of course, we're having to deal with that as well. But otherwise, I don't have too many complaints. The business is good. We're expanding. We're growing. So in many respects, I just feel like we're really in a good spot.
So speaking of business, can you tell us a little bit more about what the Giving Grove is and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So we actually partner with neighborhoods to plant little food systems by way of planting fruits, berries, and nuts. This is a way to empower a neighborhood to grow their own really healthy food without the use of chemical. We're just their coach, and we've been doing it since 2013, and it's going exceedingly well.
Very nice. Is that like nationwide or focused mainly in Kansas City, or what's the scope?
Yeah, this is an idea that was spawned in the Kansas City area, really out of a church ministry, a hunger ministry. And I always love to tell the story. I mean, the two founders were visiting while they were packing backpacks full of food one day. They send thousands of backpacks to schools so that children can have food on the weekend. Really a great little ministry. But one day, one said to the other, are we lifting these children out of this circumstance, or is this a band-aid for the day? And there's that old adage, you can give a man a fish and they can eat for the day, or you can teach them to fish and they can eat for a lifetime. And with that as sort of the notion, they started thinking about alternative approaches. And this is what they came up with. Maybe we can teach neighborhoods targeting, certain parts of the community that maybe don't have access to healthy food. If we can target those neighborhoods, inspire them to grow their own fruits, be their lifetime coach, and see what happens as a result of that. And that's what we've been doing for 7 years now.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's
And by the way, you asked if it's local. So, we started in Kansas City, and after 3 or 4 years, when we convinced ourselves that we could not only teach them how to grow, but in year 4, when the trees started producing fruit, it became apparent that all the fruit was getting picked. If anything, it was getting picked a little bit too early. And so we knew it was working. And at that point in time, we decided to just test the idea, see if we could introduce the program into another city. And so we piloted the Giving Grove program in 2 cities, in Omaha and St. Louis, and it picked up really well in both those cities. And so now we're expanding across the country, and today it includes both Memphis, and we just made an announcement here in the last couple of weeks that Louisville Grows has agreed to become a partner of ours and grow fruit trees in the Louisville area.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I obviously I was fortunate to not grow up with the lack of food situation. But even so, I think the idea that almost the concept of growing your own food is only recently kind of make it like now that we moved to California and you can grow basically everything.
Yes.
It's the first time I've ever kind of had a front row seat for it, and it's fascinating how satisfying it can be.
Oh, it really is.
And like the property we bought has like a 50-year-old lime tree, and just seeing that one lime tree over the season can probably produce, I don't know, 500 or 600 limes all by itself. It's just incredible. And we have an apple tree that has 4 different kinds of apples grafted onto it. That's something that completely blew my mind. So
well,
it's always blooming.
I think that's honestly what got me excited about this when I was a young man. My grandmother had one of those apple trees that had three varieties grafted to it. And I was so enamored by it, so fascinated. And I was always the one climbing up the tree and the cherry trees and picking the fruit. And of course, she would make crazy amounts of pies. But everybody in this little town in Iowa, little town of about 700 people, everybody ended up with one of her pies. It was really a great experience growing up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One quick professional, maybe you can give me a tip. With our apple tree, the crows like to take our apples before we get them. Do you have any professional guidance
I
for me?
get that question quite a bit. Oftentimes in the urban core, however, it's raccoons or squirrels. And
Yes.
and what I encourage people that grow a fruit tree in their backyard to do is you can do one of two things. You're basically putting a covering around the fruit. And a simple way to do that is to take a little baggie. You clip the corners off the bottom of the baggie and a V in the Ziploc portion.
Hmm.
And in that V is where you put the stem of the fruit,
Hmm.
right? So you're doing two things. One is you now use zero chemical. And it looks a little silly because you'll have, decide how many apples or how many limes you want. Um, and that's how many baggies you will have. And if you don't like the look of baggies, you can use little nylons, like little footies that they have in the shoe stores when you're
Hmm.
trying on shoes. Those can be tied around a little fruitlet when it's about, just the size of your pinky fingernail,
Hmm.
just like a pea size. You can tie them on or clip them on with a baggie. And the animals, the four-legged critters, will usually leave those alone,
Hmm.
and you won't have to use any pesticide at all. They'll be insect free.
That's awesome. I'll have to
Yeah,
go get some Ziploc bags. Thank you.
yeah,
Um, so the other business I wanted to talk about real quick, just because I think it's important for people to know about it, because like we talked before we started recording, I didn't know about it before you and I met. So you and I met through Tony Sheets, whose name seems to come up a lot on these calls. He's introduced me to a lot of people in Kansas City, but you had asked him at the time to help find some IT support for the Kansas City community gardens.
yeah.
So I wondered if you could just kind of in a quick nutshell let people know what that
Yeah.
nonprofit does as well.
Okay. Real quick. When we started our program, we became part of the Kansas City Community Gardens, and we're doing that around the country. By the way, as an aside, we're not launching Giving Grove organizations in these cities. We're finding organizations that already are teaching people how to grow food. In Kansas City, that happened to be the Kansas City Community Gardens. And over the course of 35 years, in the last 10 years, we have grown exponentially out there. We've gone from literally about 2 to 3 or 4 people for most of that time frame, and then this whole food movement and food justice movement ramped up about 8 or 9 years ago. So we grew to 25 people, and we were desperate, really, to find someone to take ownership of our technology, kind of our infrastructure. We had a lot of people like myself who, had experience, could talk even a little bit, bits and bytes, but really had no ability to turn servers on or bring servers down and move things to the cloud. So could barely, understand what that actually meant. So at the time, I had a career in a consulting world, and one of my consultants actually is Tony's wife, partner. And so I reached out to them, knowing them. He saw trusted technology consultant, and I basically just said, here's what I'm looking for. And the thing I would add to this, Adam, I think that might be useful for folks is when I started my career, I lived right beside a small business owner of a warehousing business. And I watched his business and I was really pretty fascinated. I worked in $1 billion business and he managed this little warehousing business and he worked his tail off. But what I noticed is everybody got his attention, right? He's the owner. He made sure everybody got personal attention. And that's what I wanted. As I looked at him, I didn't want, a great big business. I wanted someone where I knew, Adam, when I needed your attention, I'd get your attention. And for those who might be watching into this clip, we just moved and migrated a technology platform. And while Adam has lots of people that could have done that, Adam moved that for me, right? We spent, a good portion of a half a day kind of hands on deck, kind of moving our technology platform. That's the kind of service that I was looking for. And that's what I think we ended up getting out of Firefly. So, kudos to you, Adam, for this business that you've created and your ability to kind of be hands on into the details of moving an organization. And even though we're little small nonprofits, um, it's important work, right?
Absolutely.
We only can do what our technology platforms allow us to be able to do. It's all about service, but
Hmm.
the technology's got to work. So it's really important work. So we're grateful for what you've done.
Happy to help. It's funny you mentioned me being hands-on. That's been something I'll use the word struggle, but when you read business books, they always harp, especially like if it's written for the owner of the business, about how you need to work on the business, not in the business. And the point is well taken. Like I'm not discounting the point, but one of the things I've sort of discovered on my own journey is that I don't necessarily fully subscribe. Um, we've tried to set up Firefly so that the business of doing the work we do is handled in maybe somewhat unusual ways. Like we have a fractional CFO, and we have we've kept the administration pieces to a minimum, which at the end of the day allows me still to work in the business, which is what I enjoy.
Mhm.
So it's I don't know, it's one of those things where I guess I don't know what would happen if I took the other approach, but I'm pretty happy with where we've ended up this way. So
Well, here's my thought on that. I feel the same way. What I really love doing is spending time in the neighborhoods that we serve
mhm,
and building a relationship with the community. Usually there are a couple of individuals that I can get very close to, and we build a rapport, a trusted relationship. That's what I like doing more than anything. I like digging holes with them, breaking bread with them, celebrating their harvests, and inviting the community to come in and celebrate together. That's really, truly what I love to do. But I'm
yeah,
not able to spend as much time doing that these days, right? We're
yeah,
expanding. We want to be in 25 cities or 20 cities by 2025. And, I have to bring balance to all of that. But
absolutely.
we as a business owner, you kind of need this rejuvenation. You
Hmm.
need to be re-inspired yourself. Why do I do this? And so I think it's those times that I like to
Hmm.
go dig some holes, right? And I get really inspired. I get fired up by the wonderful people in these communities that, I'm just a coach. They're the ones that are making things happen in these neighborhoods, and they're amazing. And they're like these little hidden gems, and they're in every neighborhood. Um, and and in a world that seems awfully complicated these days, with economics, politics, pandemics. It's very complicated. School children that don't get to go to school, they got to figure out how to do things online at home. I mean, who would ever imagine?
Hmm.
These are folks that give me hope, that everything will be okay because we have, a group of folks who care about other people, right?
Hmm.
And they commit quite a bit of time to grow these little neighborhood orchards, not for themselves, but just for their neighborhood.
Hmm.
So that's this idea of the CEO, the owner. You need to build, the right kind of organization. But
Hmm.
I don't know, it keeps me going.
Yeah, I really like I like conceptually the idea it doesn't matter who you voted for, or who you support or what you support. Like, you know, if you have a community apple tree, it's something for everyone. It doesn't
It
see
is.
those divisions that we've created for ourselves. So that's very cool. Awesome. Well, that's probably about all the time we have for today. I appreciate your conversation. It's nice catching up.
Yeah, nice catching up with you, Adam. Take care. Be
You too.
safe out there.
We'll do our best. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye.
Bye.